Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Standardized Information with Forms with M. Craft, and I will hand it over to her so that way she can do her introduction. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am going to just start off with what WID is. Many of you already know what WID is, but it does sort of help frame why I'm going to be talking about this particular subject. WID is a research center in the graduate school. Each of our faculty have home departments. So of the, several dozen faculty, we will have people from computer science or engineering's or plant pathology or design studies. They're just everybody sort of all around campus. We're located in the Discovery building right across from Union South. It is not the WID building. Many people say that this is the WID building. We're just an occupant. We don't own the building. It would be cool if we did, but we don't. And then who I am, I started off on this campus working as a sysadmin for the CS department for about 10 years. And now I am WID's only IT professional. I was hired in 2011. Luckily, the majority of the IT for the building is provided by mortgage. And so my role is pretty much managing the projects that that WID people care about and sort of being the IT glue between WID and mortgage. I am embedded with the admin team. And so trying to make sure that they get projects done reasonably internally, giving them the help that they need, as well as working with researchers to get data storage and all the rest of the fun. So the three overarching use cases that I'm going to be talking about are buy this, give them access, and ship this. We also do a lot of forms for things like going to conferences or purchasing a computer or changing funding or needing storage or websites. There are many different tasks that we use forms and ticket systems for, but these are the three I'm going to be focusing on because they use the majority of our technologies. So for ticket systems, we use Redmine. There are many ticket systems out there. Redmine is technically an issue tracking system. It is similar to help desk software. There isn't a lot of difference between help desk software and ticket systems, sort of based on how you use them, how you configure them. During one of the morning sessions today, I asked ChatGPT to create a joke about ticket systems, and it came up with a good one. It says, why did the ticket system go to therapy? Too many unresolved issues. And I liked that. Anyway, the thing we cared about for a ticket system they're listed there. Most importantly is integrating within our login systems and being able to create all the custom parts that we need of it, having the workflows, the custom fields, and so on. So the first topic for our ticket system is somebody saying, buy this. So you can see from here, the little red asterisks are the required fields, and we try to keep them as brief and straight to the point as possible. Part of the required fields have some default strings put in there because we want people to be able to generate these off of email or the web interface system. Let's see. We sort of limit the information for things like PIs to the PIs that we list so that misspellings don't happen and we can run appropriate queries. For the funding strings, we won't actually purchase things until we have a funding string. But, so for this interface, we try to make it as straightforward, user-friendly, the minimum required information needed. On the back end of this user interface, the main bread and butter for our accountants is the issue status. When they're tracking purchases, this is the part that they care about, is what status is each ticket in. This is not in the workflow order. They really wanted them alphabetized. I don't know why, but that's fine. That's how they like it. That's how we configure it, and it works for them. These types of issue statuses allow all of the audits we need to do. And I'll talk about audits in a little bit more too. So the next big ask is give them access. And you can see that there is no big plain text field of giving information. We have a lot of information that we need to know before we can give a human being access to something, whether it's building access, IT access, access to various data sources, and so on. We do not allow people to create emails for this. They have to use the web interface. So we do not have default values filled in for any of these. We have a lot more required fields, and everything's sort of laid out in a way that should be straightforward for people to use. Just display wise, this is getting more clearly into we're trying to get everything to fit on one page of user information. So if a field with a drop down would make things too big, we turn it into a drop down. If you can just see it and it can be radio buttons, we let it be radio buttons. This particular form starts off with a different thing for tracker, because within the same field, you can change it to just building access, and it has a different set of options available to you. But unlike the by this status, the important thing for this is not just whether it was added or not. It is specific actions that need to be taken. So on the left side here, the people who are processing these tickets can say yes, no, or not available to every different thing that access could mean, whether or not they just requested the IT account or got the building access or gave them a seat. These are all separate fields that if you tried to break this down into status would be atrocious. And many of these are acted on by different people. So on the right-hand side there, you can see that I went in and added the VPN access, and they didn't need data vault. So I changed it to, irrelevant. And then I passed the entire ticket over to other coworker who made some actions, passed it over to additional coworker who made some actions, and then completed the project. So within this ticket system, the status is much less essential than all the things. And from the user point of view, they don't see any of these fields. These fields are just viewed by the admins. The other part of this is that we have it set up to appropriately notify the people who need to be notified. So with a ticket coming in, it gets sent to everybody in the user creator group, and then it gets passed on to other people, notifies people along. So we don't have to keep telling people, I need you to do this, you need to do this. It's all notified in the email system. Once the person adds onboarding to a yes, this is what we use for onboarding. UW-Madison provides Qualtrics, so we use Qualtrics. Qualtrics is available, I believe, to everybody on campus, but the essential parts of it are that sometimes when people are onboarding, they don't have a campus ID, they don't have a campus login, they're not on our network. They need to be able to start and stop and go back to see all the different statuses of what they're working on. So we have it laid out here with conditional logic. The email triggers are essential. The conditional logic is essential, and it can store just sort of all the results that we have for it. I'm trying to get through all the things. So the third use case here is the ship this. For ship this, we use PDF forms because they're useful, they're free for us. A note about Adobe and campus use: it is readily provided to faculty and staff. Students have to actually request it if they have a class or campus employment, but ideally everybody on campus who needs it can have access to Adobe. The primary use cases for us are things that need to be laid out in a specific way in a one page. We design our forms in PowerPoint or Word and then just import them right into Acrobat. But this allows us to really separate function and design. So the first thing that you notice on this example thing is we can have branding on it. It can look however we want it. We can design the layout. We can have our logos. So the left-hand side is the front-end interface for our shipping form. The right-hand side is the edit back end for the shipping form. And part of what we try to do with our forms is really wordsmith the plain language, come up with terms, layouts that are the minimum words possible that people can understand, just incoming, outcoming. If you're using it for material or document, and it's a self-documenting form where you work top down through the form and, ask question, answer it. Are you ready for this? Submit it. If you can't do this, here are active links to go to other things you need to do. It will also mention in 2 different locations that submit buttons in Adobe do not work in a browser. So we only get a couple emails every couple months from people saying, I can't submit it. It doesn't work. But when you're designing a form that you want to turn into a web form, anything that you just create in PowerPoint with underlines, it will automatically create a field for you. Essential though, you need to make sure on the right-hand side of the fields that you organize them top, down, left, right. That's part of a good user interface. That's part of just things that don't drive people insane. And then the submit button here is just part of what Adobe PDFs will do. You can create an action that on mouse up will email this form into our ticket system. So not only do they get to use this form, download it, hand it around, but it can go right into our existing ticket system. Also, just a note, make sure that all the Adobe forms that you create have dates on them so people know what version they're using. And then my slide isn't progressing. There it goes. So my final slide is just an overview of the benefits. One of the main reasons that WIT-admin uses a lot of forms is because people like to go on vacation. They like to be able to hand off things back and forth. They like to be able to comply with audits. And if they don't have to search through email and ask everybody what the status of everything is and try to figure out what happened and when, and I mean, as you saw on the first slide, we have literally dozens of PIs, and they're all of our bosses, sort of. And just keeping track of everything that people need, so much easier when there's the one-stop shop for people to do all their self-service, put everything in, and yeah. So if anybody has any questions, we do have a couple of minutes before the end, or I have my email address up there if you wanted more specific details on how we configured anything. And if there are no questions, people could actually have a minute or 2 before the next session. So I won't be sad if everybody runs away.
I thought this was a great. This is a great presentation, and standardized forms would be so handy so often. Instead of the random email that then you have to follow up 5 times just to get them to send you stuff.
Especially for things like people changing their % funding from where, like those emails go back and forth and back and forth, and like just trying to do straightforward all the questions you need in one spot.
You mentioned wordsmithing the plain language. Did you do that with relying on sort of expert editorial and design up front? And how much of that was actually based on use and accidental misuse? Did you tweak it?
So the accidental misuse definitely comes in with some of the calculations of the PDFs. For when we were working on the WID shipping form, it sort of bounced around WIT-admin for a while trying to figure out, and then we would go to, use case users, ask faculty, like, does this make sense? Ask some graduate students, does this make sense? And try to merge and combine their responses.
Yeah, Center for User Experience, maybe they weren't in existence when you developed these, but they're another.
I will
they do
definitely
this kind of stuff all the
up.
time. Yeah, Center for User Experience is going to would give me a better, I don't know, you may have more experience with this kind of, they would give me a better first draft than I could ever make myself.
I just like that you have something that in reference instead of having a 20 email back and forth.
Oh gosh, yes.
Well, especially when it comes to give somebody access, it's, are they a graduate student? Are they sticking around for years? Do they just need building access for a day? Do they like, who are they? When do they go away? How do you audit that need? Yeah. But when we can get all of the information we need in one place, and go back over here, like we really need to know things like their net ID so they can get VPN access. We need to know their occupancy for building safety things. We need to know because we have different passcodes for 24/7 access. Like all of these things are because we need to know it. It's not just to annoy people. Like yeah. There is a question of working with a group trying to decide between Word fillable form and PDF fillable form for committee members. So the main part for the Word fillable form and the PDF is that for us, we seem to have more control of whether it stayed on one page or not for Adobe Forms. And for the Adobe Forms, they sort of automatically shrink the text in the long text fields. And that was sort of like the overarching reason we decided to do that. And I assume that Word can also have a button to submit to email people, but for me, it was easy to find in a PDF form, that functionality. So yeah, sort of, but and I know for a while we would try to use Google Forms for things. Part of the reason we didn't use that is because their email notifications didn't seem to work well with multiple people.
That was a great answer. And we're actually at time now. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I'm sure everyone who attended learned a lot. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yep. Bye.